Something is happening with our children. Every day we see the videos. Fights in schools, teachers being attacked, guns in the hands of teenagers, carjackings, robberies, young people recording violence and posting it online like it's entertainment. And a lot of folks look at that and say, these kids are becoming criminals. But then I look at another set of numbers. Black children make up about 15% of America's public school students. Yet they account for roughly 28% of students referred to law enforcement and about 33% of school-related arrests. Black preschool children are about 18% of preschool enrollment, but represent roughly 38% of preschool children receiving out-of-school suspensions, and about 1/3 of those that are expelled. Preschool, we're talking about babies. And this pattern didn't start with Donald Trump. It didn't disappear under Barack Obama. It didn't disappear under Joe Biden. Republicans have governed. Democrats have governed. The disparity survived. The numbers survived. So we have to ask a difficult question. Are we criminalizing our youth, or are our youth becoming criminals? Because here's where it might get complicated for some people. While it may feel like this generation is more criminal than ever, a lot of us talk about, these children, they out of control. Well, actually, federal juvenile justice data shows that juvenile arrests have actually fallen by 67% between 2006 and 2019. So what are we really looking at? Are our children actually becoming more violent? Or a smartphone, surveillance cameras, social media, a 24 hours news cycle? You know what I'm saying? Are they simply showing us things that previous generations were able to hide? Are schools too quick to suspend, expel, and involve the police? Are some of our children bringing behavior into the classroom that teachers should never be expected to tolerate? And we have to be honest enough to ask both questions. Because I refuse to believe that racism means that our children don't need to be held accountable. But I also refuse to believe that accountability has to mean throwing our children into a pipeline to prison, or a pipeline of suspension, expulsion, police, courtrooms, and incarceration. Maybe the system is failing our children. Perhaps it's designed that way. Maybe we're also failing some of our children too. And maybe the most uncomfortable truth tonight is that both things can be happening at the same time. So tonight, we're going to talk about it. No Democrat versus Republican. No excuses for the system, but also no excuses for us. Are we criminalizing our youth, or are our youth becoming criminals? Let's build.
You are as great as any man of greatness that you've heard about, read about, or seen in real life, possibly greater.
Everybody wanna build with me, politic and chill with me. They see the fire's killing me, the authentic is feeling me, the architects are feeling me. You're dreaming about killing me, they wish that they could silence me because I feel so violently. We will not go quietly, subscribe to me until this show is virally. Got millions trying to vibe with me. Let's build.
Peace and power, family. How y'all feeling? It's your brother, Dr. Baba Amin Ojuwoke, co-founder of the Uhuru Academy and Uhuru Academy Education Solutions. For those of you who have never met me, or those of you who are seeing me for the first time, I'm a husband and father, 8 beautiful children. I've been involved with working with young people and families, primarily in the Black community, for over 30 years. I'm an independent educator. And like I mentioned earlier, co-founder of my own independent African-centered school and school system called the Uhuru Academy, or Uhuru Academy Education Solutions. I'm also a universalist minister, an African-centered universalist minister, specializing in fostering spiritual unity across faiths in the Black community. It's an honor to meet your acquaintance. Welcome to the Bill. Tonight, we're going to talk about something interesting. The question is, are we criminalizing our youth? Or are our youth becoming criminals? I want you to share this conversation. I want you to join in. I want you to be in the comments. I want my teachers to speak up. I want my parents to speak up tonight. What's going on out here? Something interesting happened in the news this week, hit the news cycle. The Department of Education sent out what they call a letter to colleagues, or a colleague letter. And from what my understanding, a colleague letter or a letter to colleagues, right, is a not necessarily something that's written into law, right? But it's a letter that goes out from the top that often has a very strong suggestion attached to it. It's like, well, you don't necessarily have to do what I'm telling you to do with this letter to the colleagues. But if you don't do it, you may be subject to investigation. If you don't do it, it might hurt your money, right? So when the Department of Ed sends out a colleague letter to school districts, right, they're basically saying, if you want to be my friend, you'll take this advice. Well, a colleague letter went out recently where the Department of Education is basically letting school districts know that disparities in statistics alone will no longer be considered when formulating consequences for actions. In other words, they're basically saying that leveling the playing field when it comes to education disparities is discriminatory. So if the only evidence you have that there are education disparities, that Black youth, for example, Black students, for example, being 16% of all students enrolled in public school, but 27% of students that are referred to law enforcement, right? You're 15% of the population, overall population, yet 37% of the young people being referred to law enforcement are Black students. Well, the Department of Education said this week that that can no longer be taken into consideration when coming up with solutions to that problem. The solutions can't be what they call race-based solutions. So even though Black youth are dealing with that disparity, you can no longer claim that that's racism or racism alone. And you can't offer any race-based solutions to the problem. And if they catch you doing it, they'll put you under investigation. There's already 2 school districts, one in Arkansas and I believe in Milwaukee, that are under investigation for amending their policies in order to heal the disparity or close the disparity in suspensions and expulsions between Black students and non-Black students, or Black students and white students, right? So now they're saying you can't prove systemic racism with statistics anymore. You can't call it racism just because one particular group is being suspended, expelled, or punished more severely than others, right? And the interesting thing about that is during the Biden administration, right, they sent out a colleague letter about the same subject, but they said, hey, monitor it for systemic racism. Like it says, it's okay to keep the data. It's okay to adjust to the data, but just monitor it, right? The first Trump admin came in and they were like, no, don't use that data. Obama's administration came in and actually said, okay, yes, definitely you can use that data when justifying solutions and closing those achievement gaps or closing those disciplinary gaps, right? So you see, as the administrations change, the interpretation of the policy also changes, right? But one thing that I found that was interesting, irregardless of who was in office, the statistics never changes. It doesn't matter if you look at the statistics over the last 20 years, when it comes to school expulsions, when it comes to the disproportionate amount of black youth who are introduced to the criminal justice system, the disproportionate amount of black youth that face expulsion and suspension or in-school suspension, that has virtually gone unchanged over the past 20 years. So even when you have an administration in that says, yes, we need to deal with those disparities, the outcomes don't change. When you have an administration to come in and says, case by case, there are no disparities, racism doesn't exist, the numbers still don't change. So at the end of the day, regardless of who's in office, we're still dealing with issues of how our children are being treated in public school. And I find this new rule interesting because it's kind of like they're saying, hey, if you can't prove intent, then it don't exist. Well, how do I prove intent? How do I prove what's in your heart? See, as long as you don't say it, as long as you don't say that is racism, as long as you don't come out and say, yeah, we're going to suspend, we're going to get rid of these black boys, we're going to get rid of these black children, yeah, we're going to interpret their behavior as loud, obnoxious, they're ghetto, we see it on TV all the time, and they all just want to be little thugs. As long as you don't say that, you can feel it all you want to, and you can even enact and abuse your power based on those beliefs, because the burden of proof is now on the victim of it. It's not on the perpetrator of it. Right? So as long as you can use coded language, you can do whatever you want to do if you're holding a position of power. So if you want to control the amount of a certain group's ability to take advantage of opportunities, you can control that. I found an interesting statistic about a certain law that, particularly in South Carolina, that they held for years here, and it's called the school disruption law, right? Or a school disturbance ticket, right? Right? When in the heyday of zero tolerance, the early 2000s on into the mid 2010s, right? South Carolina gave out tens of thousands, right, of school disturbance tickets. Now, what is a school disturbance ticket? Let's say Deja, for example, our good friend Deja, she likes to crack jokes and she's super funny. Well, let's say, Deja, you got a teacher in your classroom that just ain't feeling you or not feeling whoever, and you decide to crack a joke and everybody laughs. Well, that's a gateway to introduce you to the criminal justice system. Now, why is that an issue? When you criminalize in-school behavior, right, what comes with tickets? Tickets don't just come with a piece of paper. Tickets come with fines, right? And so when that ticket comes with a fine and you are a low-income family, right, and you can't pay the fine, oftentimes when you can't pay a fine, they escalate. They escalate you into the system, and now your fine becomes a probation. Now with your probation comes restrictions, curfews, that sort of thing. Now, if you violate your probation, they intensify your probation. So now you're getting into issues where not only are you dealing with the in-school behavior, this one incident, but once you're on probation, that brings that incident directly where? Into the home. Now, once it comes into the home, your home situation comes into play. And if there's a home situation that's disrupting your life, that may disrupt your ability to successfully go through a probationary period, now your probation becomes intensified. You become a violator, and now you're deeper into the system. They call it the continuum of services. Right? And so we've criminalized in school behavior. Well, y'all, if you check the numbers, right? The schools that use these practices the most are usually low income, predominantly minority or black and brown schools. In contrast to schools in more affluent neighborhoods that may also have SROs or police officers on campus, but they also have counseling on campus. They also have alternate programs for behavior problems on campus, right? Whereas you'll find in a lot, not all, but in a lot of the lower income schools, you'll find the police presence, but you won't find the counseling presence. You won't find a menu of services to help deal with trauma, a menu of services to help students get counseling. You won't find that. What you'll find is a criminalization of child trauma. We don't care about what's going on at home. You're using that as an excuse. And you have the same opportunities to do well as everybody else. But my father's incarcerated. I think about him sometimes. No, not interested. Well, I haven't seen my mama in 3 days. That's how you people are. That's your culture. Of course, your big brother's in jail. Of course, you have a friend who got shot. Now go to class. You can't use that as an excuse. And no, we're not offering any counseling. No, we're not offering any grief counseling. And some of y'all know, if you grew up in poverty, poverty can be violent. Poverty itself can be traumatizing. So somebody's profiting, though, off of that trauma. Somebody's profiting and monetizing the attitudes and behaviors that manifest themselves as a result of this poverty or this class or this place inside of society where we reside. And it's not very popular to advocate for these groups. There's not a lot of money available to advocate. You're right, Deja. They even call prisons detention centers. And when you get in trouble in school, where do they send you? Detention. What are they prepping you for? What are they prepping you for? Right? Black students, 15.5% of enrollment in schools, but 39% of students suspended from school. Are we doing that much more crime, or are we committing that much more offenses in school? Are our students being treated unfairly, or are our babies just cutting up and being bad? How much of that is true accountability, and how much of that is discrimination? Those are the conversations we have to ask. Yes, we can talk about the role that the system plays, but what about the role that we play as parents, as community leaders, as the first people that our children see? What role do we play? I'm not here to answer that question. I'm here to ask that question. Are our children being criminalized, or are our children becoming criminals? I'm going to give y'all another interesting statistic. Like I said, we talk as if Everything is out of control. These children are just out of control. Oh, you know, when you get old, you think everybody bad. When you get old, the world just gets scary. You know, I remember when I was a young man, I pull up in a parking lot at night at a store, and if I see a police car, I was like, oh man, Popo need to get up out of here, man. They finna mess everything up. You know, now I'm an older gentleman. When I pull into the parking lot and it's dark and a lot of stuff going on, I see a police car, I still be like, I'm a little militant still, whatever the police, but a part of me be like, whew, I'm kind of glad they're here. The world gets a little scarier as you get older, but let me drop a fact on you, right? Between 2008 and 2019, juvenile crime in America has actually dropped by over 67%. For the most part, juvenile crime has gone down. I'm going to take a little break, but when I get back, we're going to talk about it. Why do we feel like things are worse? Are things actually getting worse? Or is it this 24/7 news cycle or these algorithms that we're caught up in that has us actually even participating as a community in the criminalization of our youth? We're going to talk about that. Give me about 60 seconds. I got something to show you.
There was once a mother who knew exactly who she was. She was raising her daughter with love, purpose, and pride. Every morning she sent her daughter into the world hoping that the values she taught at home would be enough. But every day her daughter walked into a school where she felt like she didn't belong. The whispers, the stares, the feeling that no matter what she did, she'd always be seen as different. Day after day, she started shrinking. She stopped raising her hand, stopped believing her voice mattered. She spent so much energy trying not to be noticed that she forgot who she was. She changed the way she dressed, the way she carried herself, anything just to fit in. At home, her mother could see something was changing, but she didn't know why. Then one night, she confronted her about her grades. But instead of another argument, she listened. And for the first time, her daughter told her how lonely, how afraid, and how exhausted she was from pretending to be someone she wasn't. A friend simply said, I think you should look at this. Uhuru Academy Sankofa for Success Saturday School. At first, she wasn't interested, but week after week, the African proverbs, the history, the conversations began reaching places the bullying never could. She met young people from all over the world, and the school didn't change. The hallways didn't change, the people didn't change, but she did. She walked with confidence, not because she wasn't afraid, but because she finally knew who she was. Sometimes our children don't just need protection, they need cultural armor. That's what Uhuru Academy Sankofa for Success Saturday School is all about, helping our children remember where they come from so they can confidently decide where they're going. Enroll now.
All right, y'all, welcome back to the Build. I'm Dr. Baba Ojuwoke. Shout out to the Uhuru Academy and shout out to the Sankofa for Success Saturday School that's enrolling right now. And matter of fact, I'm going to share the link a little later on because right now, because of a partnership, and shout out to Pinckney Farms, because of a partnership with Pinckney Farms, right? We were able to slash our tuition for the Saturday school by more than a half. Right? So now, just for $25 per session tuition, your child can be a part of the Sankofa for Success Saturday School. We're doing an 8-week program, an 8-week cohort, just $180 for all 8 weeks on the tuition for that Saturday school, thanks to a partnership and a sponsorship from Pinckney Farms. So y'all be on the lookout for Pinckney Farms in the very, very near future. We're doing some great things with the Uhuru Academy and Pinckney Farms and the Veteran Village, but we'll get into that another day. Right now, let's get back to what we're talking about. We're talking about Black youth, criminalized, or are they becoming criminals? Right? Criminalized, or are they becoming criminals? And let me go ahead and take a comment. Let's share a comment in the that's in the chat. I'm gonna add it to the podcast. All right. My sister Deasia said, definitely treated unfairly. It's a stretch, but I think that we got to go back to the old lady on the porch. We got to start back policing ourselves and stop letting them do it. Parents don't want you to say anything to their kids anymore to stop the outside forces from intervening. That's a very valid point, Deasia. That's a very valid point, right? I hear that a lot where parents say, where people say, well, parents, they don't want you to talk to their children anymore. They don't want you to say anything. Now it's like, don't talk to my kids. Who talking to my kids? It's almost like there's this collective overdeveloped ego going on. Right. And it's not everybody, but that is very prevalent, and saying that we have to go back and to really policing us, doing a better job of policing ourselves. I agree with that, But when I look at some of the media that we feed ourselves, when I look at some of the things that we feed ourselves culturally nowadays, it's not conducive to being that way. We live in such a social media oriented, attention getting, go viral oriented society. Right? That a lot of people just don't want to be bothered. So many people are trying to be superstars through their phone, right? That being bothered by something that's going on the outside of that, it just irks you, and you're not really concerned. You're not trying to get involved, or you go instantly in defense mode, right? Right? And also, you got to look at how we value ourselves. The more you value yourself, the better you treat yourself. And the more we start copping to calling ourselves or being B word, N word, all these other things that we kind of cop to. Now, I don't trip on those words, right? But there's a sentiment behind them that if they're overused, we get out of balance, right? We get out of balance and we just start choosing violence. We start choosing violence with each other. Verbal violence, mental violence, emotional violence, physical violence. I believe there are some things, just like Deasia pointed out, there are some things that when we say, hey, we got to get back to policing ourselves. Before you can police yourself, you got to know yourself. And I think we really have to get back to defining ourselves and holding ourselves accountable again to who we are. I remember a time, and I'm a little older, but I remember a time where we cut up between Monday and Saturday, but on Sunday, you saw a lot of people going into the church house. You saw a lot of people going into church that's trying to regulate their behavior, man, just to get back regular and then come into Monday righteous, Tuesday righteous, Wednesday you sip a little bit, Thursday you ready to turn up, Friday the turn up is real because we got our check, Saturday is on, and then Sunday you go repent and kind of repeat that cycle again. You see what I'm saying? There used to be more regulatory forces inside of our culture, right? That helped us balance things out, that helped us not forget about the value of education, right? I remember I had Fat Albert to look at on Saturday mornings. You know what I'm saying? Like there was more balance in the music, right? I remember there was a time and they say, no, you're going to wear that. You got to wear that at the club. You got to wear that at the gym. You got to wear that there. But you don't wear that there. You don't wear just anything anywhere. If you're gonna live like that, you need to mind your own business and don't put your business in the streets. Now we live in a time where putting your business in the streets is a job. We live in a time now where putting your business out on Front Street might help you go viral. We live in a time now to where when you and your auntie get into it, you might go live to talk about your auntie. That's why grandmama never really wanted you. That's why your daddy was sleeping with all them women and doing all of that. So now our children are watching. And so we live out loud so much, right? That and it's being ingrained into our culture. And do y'all feel like our children are starting to perpetuate that and take it into school with them? So now you have behaviors and conversations being had in the public square, inside the classroom, among children that teachers ain't even trained to deal with, right? That teachers aren't even trained to deal with. And I know it's easy when things go wrong to just say, hey, man, that's racism. They treating the black children bad. That is true. Look, the system ain't never changed, ever. Integration didn't cure racism. In a lot of places, it intensified racism, right? Integration did a lot of economic harm to the black community, the way that it did. Now, the true definition of integration is when I take the best of me, you take the best of you, we come together and work to fuse it in a way that helps and uplifts everybody else. Yeah, that didn't happen. When I started working with young people, the first place I worked at was Butler Housing. And it was volunteer rite of passage program. Shout out to my now Ricky Clark. This is the early 90s, y'all. The height of the crack era, the height of the gang banging era, right? Well, in Butler, for years, to help break generational poverty and generational curses, one of the best high schools in Texas was located inside the housing community called I M Terrell High School. Well, during integration, late 60s, early 70s, okay, integration was used by racists, right, as a means to get rid of I am Terrell. It's kind of like what's happening right now with this new law, where they're saying, all right, if we catch y'all trying to fix something racist using race, then you gonna be in trouble. If you call it racist and you say, for example, if our children don't see themselves in the curriculum, so we want to have Black history programs. Well, hold on, no, that's a race-based solution. So if I catch you with a race-based solution, you in trouble, right? So this is an old playbook. When integration came along, you had people in a lot of states and cities and districts in the South that say, oh, so that Negro school, that school for Negroes, that's segregation. So what do we want to do? Do we want to send white children to the school with the Negroes in it, and then some of the Negroes to the white schools? Or do we want to say, yeah, my bad for making y'all go to an all-black school? My bad for doing that. Let's close that black school, which is a solution. Even if it's a successful school, let's close that school and bus everybody across town to the predominantly white school. Instead of taking the funds that the disproportionate amount of money that the predominantly white school is getting and sending those dollars over to the black school, which in many towns included black tax dollars too, that were going to the wrong side of town. Instead of sending those dollars over there to lift their facilities up, let's just take a few of them, bring them over here, increase the money over here, and allow that one to fall down. Right? Y'all see how it works? You turn racism, you turn fighting racism into racism. And you have to believe, if you're a true patriot, that racism no longer exists. You have to believe that no, it's all about merit and individual effort. And anyone who does the right thing in America has a great chance. Anybody can make it. And you have to walk in with that assumption. But walking in with that assumption, right, makes you ill-equipped to fight any systemic issues that are already there. So you're handicapped, your hands are tied behind your back. So your students are failing that state test, right? You can't inject anything cultural that may help them or give them more confidence to pass that test. Now, that's a race-based solution. But you can still have race-based problems. You can still talk about the achievement gap between black students and white students. But the reasoning now just becomes, is something wrong with black people. You can talk about the disparity in hiring among black people and white people. But now the only reason got to be, well, is because there's something wrong with black people and something inherently right with white people. You can no longer accuse me of cheating, even if you catch me doing it. So while, yes, there's so much we need to do, especially knowing that the cheaters are now, right, cheating in your face It's saying even if you find the data to back the cheating up, I'll prosecute you for introducing that into the conversation. What does that tell us that we need to do? What does that tell us that we need to do? What's the solution? If you playing Monopoly on my Monopoly board, and I say I get to roll the dice 2 times to your 1 time, it ain't nothing you can do about it. If you accuse me of cheating, I'm taking your money, your property on the board, and but you got to sit here at the board. Matter of fact, I'm gonna make you go to jail right there. Just go to jail on the board. What happens? What happens when working class people feel like things aren't fair? We stop being fair. What happens when you see somebody's cheating? You either quit or you start what? Cheating. So how much of our children's behavior comes from that feeling that this ain't fair? Comes from that feeling that I'm not respected here. I'm not wanted here. I'm not believed in here. So I'm not going to perform for you. I might not disrespect you, but I'm not going to perform for you. I don't want to be here. We have some things to talk about. Black youth, criminalized or being treated like criminals. I'm going to let y'all think about it for a second. I'm going to let you think about it for a second. But when we come back, right? When we come back, we're going to talk more. We're going to talk more. We're going to talk a little bit about how money determines. What role does money play? What role does class play in determining the type of help that a child receives when they're in need? That's up on the other end. This is the Build.
The Uhuru Academy overall is an amazing school from the teacher to the students. Is a place where kids can build their confidence and learn how to write, read, type, all of that good stuff. We learn our history here. We honor our ancestors, so we learn about who we are and where we come from, and I really enjoy this about this school. And like everybody's pretty much saying, it's a safe space, and we can always be able to feel like we can open up to our classmates and our teachers. So that's what I love.
I love the environment in that they promote not being afraid to ask for help.
Something positive about the Uhuru Academy is this is a safe space, and you can be able to say whatever you want to say without being embarrassed. Just like how Amani said, I've been able to sometimes I can be shy talking around people, but y'all have taught me not to be shy and everything. This is a very good school. The part that I love about this is when we do ancestor reverence and African history.
I think this is the greatest school I've ever went to because you teach me about my history, and at the other schools they never taught me one thing about my history. They just taught, the only black people they talked about at my other schools were Carter G. Woodson, Martin Luther King, and I think that's it. So you guys helped me learn my true history.
All right, y'all, welcome back to the Build. It's your brother, Baba Amin. We're talking about black youth. Criminalized, right? Or are they becoming the criminals? I guess it depends on who you talk to. You know, I see a lot of cities, like here recently in Columbia, South Carolina, where I live. I've had the honor of being the board president of the South Carolina Juneteenth Freedom Festival, the biggest Juneteenth celebration in the state. This year, we had an issue with teens fighting at Juneteenth. It's the first time since I've been here, well, in the history of the festival, that we've ever had any type of fight, any type of aggression going on at the event. But, you know, there was this thing going around on social media called teen takeovers, right? And so we had a brief teen takeover at Juneteenth. Well, as soon as the teen takeover happened, right, within the 15 to 20 minutes, it was over. However, the law enforcement still decided to shut the event down, right, and send everybody home. You know, before the headliners came out, before the end of the show, we had Midnight Star there and others. And as soon as the team takeover, and I'm not gonna make light of the so-called takeover, there was like 3 or 4 different little fights. Nobody, fortunately, was seriously hurt. Law enforcement moved in, arrested everybody that was involved, broke it up, but they still shut down the event out of fear of things getting worse, right? And you can see an immediate fear of our youth, an immediate fear of Black youth terrorization that kind of polarized the city. Now, if you look at it objectively, right, if you look at it objectively, young people weren't just going crazy everywhere. It was overblown. But it was presented in a way to like, this is something that was engaged in culture. And one of the things that we tend to do is say, our kids are doing this. We don't say those children are doing this, right? We don't say a few of us are engaging in violence. We were like, you know, Black kids out here killing each other, right? Even though 99.8% of Black youth are not killing each other. You know what I'm saying? But in our algorithms and in the news, what's reported, Black youth crime gets reported way more than Black youth scholarships. Right? And so the stigma is there. A stigma of criminality is put on our young people, you know, based on like that exposure, based on the image. We all have an image, whether you like it or not. Right? Whether you like it or not. And I know some people are like, you know, I don't care about an image. I don't care what other people think. And we're even teaching our children, don't care about what other people think, but we're not explaining the nuance in that lesson. Right? The beginning of that lesson is be the best that you can be. Reach your full potential and don't worry about what other people think. Accept your responsibilities. Take care of your business and don't care about what other people think. You don't start the lesson with don't care about what other people think. And I think one of the things we've been tricked into is to feel like being any type of way is synonymous with freedom. Right? We were having the bonnet. Everybody was having the bonnet debate a few weeks ago. Even though, you know, it started with a policy at an HBCU Morehouse that says now no bonnets. Right? It started with a policy at an HBCU, but then it got into a larger conversation on are bonnets appropriate to wear in public, period. When do you wear a bonnet? When do you wear a do-rag, right? And what does bonnets? Bonnets denotes, like, for lack of a better term, being a ratchet or being ghetto or you know what I'm saying, being unprepared or being unprofessional. Do-rags denote Black criminality and the whole 9 yards. And we've been debating the fine line. Where is the line? Right? Where does accountability and enabling, where do they meet? Right? It's a very intriguing conversation. These are conversations that we have to have. They're very necessary conversations, right? But then it gets into the conversation of what type of image do we want to project as a culture? Right? And then we'll go into this, we'll lie to ourselves and say, well, no other people do that. No, pretty much every other people do that. Right? You can look at as much European American, white American decadence on TV and in movies as you want to, but you're going to find plenty of white heroes to balance that out, ain't you? You can watch, we watch and we can see young white males shooting at the president. Young white male's been trying to kill Trump. A young white male killed Charlie Kirk, but nobody's really walking around saying, man, why are white males acting out so violently? What's wrong with white youth? Now, they're saying it inside their community. You're not privy to those conversations, but it's there. But outside on the external, everything's just fine. And the image, the image is taken care of so well that even now that we have those students at Penn State who came out, they got on suits, bow ties, and everything, running a whole drug ring at Penn State We still ain't looking at white youth like what's going on with white youth. But we see some black youth wearing bonnets. Oh, that's what's wrong with these kids. Our kids are professional. They not professional. They don't want to learn. You hear about black youth crime. Oh, these cheering out of control. And it's almost like we're engineered to see the flaws. Engineered to see the devilment on one side, but engineered to see the angel on the other, with the other group. Engineered to see the worst in us, but the best in them. Black youth, criminalized, or are they really the criminals? How many of you have seen on social media, whenever they put a black mug shot up of a young person, you always find white folk and black people too in there, the usual suspects. It's the usual suspects. It's the usual suspects. Being the usual suspects has been a weapon to justify criminalizing black people since slavery. It's still being used, or is it still being used in 2026? The question is, what qualities are we not seeing in our youth? Because we're so stressed out and worried about the negativity. How many positive young people are getting ignored? How many black youth living in poverty, fighting poverty, right? Doing the best they can with what they got. How many are being ignored because they're being mislabeled as a problem, as at risk, rather than at promise? How many are we leaving to fight this alone? Simply because the stigma and the image being put on them renders them untouchable, unredeemable, or irredeemable. How many of us have been rendered in a state of just waiting for the police to pick them up? Content knowing that you'll never get further than a Walmart cashier. Black youth, criminalized? Or are they the criminals? Something interesting, because some people might say it's the money thing. And I'm going to hit this statistic real quick. We just got a few minutes left. Something I found very interesting. Across the board in all discipline areas, whether it's suspensions, expulsions, in-school fighting, referrals, corporal punishment, when the income is low, the rates of discipline are high. Expulsion is high. Suspensions are high. There's a direct correlation between money, right, and school discipline. But something unique about black youth, that's overall. But something unique about black youth is that studies show that irregardless of class, irregardless of economic status, black youth statistics pretty much stay the same. Disparities among black youth pretty much stay the same. Are we being backed in the corner to where we have to admit our inferiority? Are race-based statistics being taken out of the conversation to protect systemic racism? And to prove black inferiority and white supremacy? Does wealth buy a child another chance in this country? Absolutely it does. What happens when an affluent 15-year-old gets in trouble versus a poor 15-year-old? I mean, if we both have a fight and I'm affluent and you're not, and we both get the same $500 ticket, we didn't get the same punishment. My daddy keep $500 on him at all times. Your daddy ain't seen $500 at one time in 6 months. Who gets the therapist and who gets the probation officer? Who gets the private school option and who has to go to alternative school? Who gets the lawyer and who gets the public defender? Who gets treatment for their addiction versus who gets detention? That ain't just race. That's race plus class. But statistics show, though, when it put in the hands of the system and you're a black child, there's no real difference in the severity of the punishment. There's no difference in whether or not the judge is going to consider treatment versus detention. There's no, ask Diddy now. ask the almost black billionaire how he felt sitting in that courtroom, if he felt like his $1 billion was sitting next to him. And what did it do for him? Our children are going through the same thing. So what's the solution? Y'all know we got to deal with some solutions, right? We got to deal with some solutions. What are some solutions? And before I leave, I want to hear from you all. What are some solutions? How do we level the playing field or create our own playing field? Y'all already know the solution that I'm a part of. I build schools. I design curriculum that empower black youth. See, if the system won't allow culturally relevant and culturally based programs, we can start them ourselves. What's stopping us? What's stopping us from teaching our children our history beyond slavery? What's stopping us from showing our children examples of black success? Some of our children dream about being astronauts but never see Mae Jemison. Some of our children are dreaming about being software developers but really have no idea or don't know or haven't been exposed to any software developers that look like them. Some of our children would love to get married and have a healthy family, but they're not exposed and don't see any married black healthy families in their direct vicinity. And many begin to identify being married and being with somebody or one person with poverty. Or they start identifying not being with somebody. Like, that's too expensive. I don't want to be with nobody. You got black boys out here right now talking about what type of baby mama they gonna have, not what type of wife. You have black girls out here talking about what type of baby daddy they want, not what type of husband. Do we no longer believe in the family unit? I know it's easy to fall on the absentee father conversation. But you know, just because you physically there don't mean you emotionally there. Don't mean you mentally there. And it doesn't mean that you're healthily. I'm making up a word, healthily there. Doesn't mean that your presence is healthy. So even if the custodial parent, whether it's the father or the mother, if they're plagued with toxicity, what are they going to pass on to the child? It's not always because you by yourself, sister. And it's not always because you're by yourself, brother. Sometimes it's because of who you are within yourself. That's why we have to start asking ourselves the tough questions. We can't just lean on the easy answer. Black youth, criminalized, or are they the real criminals? There are a lot of people out there that won't hesitate. They're the criminals. They're doing the drive-bys. They're doing the rap beef stuff. They're robbing. They're doing this, and this. And are there black youth engaged in those activities? Absolutely. But are you doing it the most? Really? Perhaps it's the most reported. Who's doing the reporting? Can you trust it? We have to look at it. Are black youth also out here winning academic scholarships? Absolutely. Are there black youth out here, like I said, doing the best they can with what they have? Absolutely. We have a role to play as a community. We have a role to play to guard the image of our youth. We have a role to play to invest in the youth that are out here doing the best they can with what they have. The number one recruiter for youth getting involved in the streets is neglect. Sometimes you see a young person, you say, man, he got a good family at home. What is he doing out there? Maybe he's not getting the attention that he needs at home. Maybe he's falling into an algorithm that makes what's out there look attractive and what he's doing look boring. Maybe it's because as a community we're glorifying those who push self-destructive narratives more than those who are trying to push a positive narrative. Maybe too many of us want it both ways, particularly those of us who are working class, those of us in the hood. We want to glorify one thing, but expect a different type of result. Maybe we've been enticed and said, man, that's what we want. That's what they want. We got to talk about shooting other black people in our music. Now it's like being fine as a job. Now you're not looking in the mirror. You're not looking in the mirror at your brain saying that you're looking at your booty. Ooh, I might go viral with this. Let me do a dance in front of things. So now we're allowing the value to shift from the mind to the body, to shift from the spirit to the body shape. What does that do with the young people who don't have the body shape? What does that do to the young people who don't have the money to take a picture with in flash? What does that do to them spiritually? Man, that might have been the next best doctor in the world. That might have been the next best astronaut, the next best inventor. Who's investing in those children? As a community, if the gangster rapper is getting an investment, then that spiritual rapper needs one. The culturally conscious one needs one. We have to show them, our children first, ourselves, and the rest of the world, that this is what we invest in. We invest in excellence. We invest in independent black programs for our youth. We invest in vocational training for our youth. We invest in band and performing arts programs for our youth. No, we'll take our money and do that. And guess who we'll take it away from? We'll take it from Netflix. Yeah, Netflix. Sorry, we can't afford $30 a month. Instead of paying you $30 to watch a movie, we're going to take that $30, invest in our community, and be the movie. Sorry, streaming app, I'm taking that money. We're taking that money, we're going to invest in our children so they can build their own streaming app, and then we'll pay the monthly fee to them. So what the government says, you can no longer use racial statistics and to solve these racial problems. Y'all, we already have everything we need to solve every problem that we have. This is not a skill issue. This is a will issue. And we need to ask ourselves, do we have the will to decriminalize our youth? Do we have the will to shape our youth, invest in our youth? Because sometimes what you call a criminal may just be a freedom fighter. They call Dr. King a criminal. Some say a law that's not honored by those who are paid to keep the law is no law at all. There's an African proverb that says, the children who are ignored by the village will burn it down just to feel its warmth. How many of our children are setting fires in the village just so they can feel some warmth? I appreciate y'all spending some time with me tonight. I'll be remiss to get out of here without telling you to support the Uhuru Academy. All right, I'm going to put the link in the chat. I want y'all to visit uhuruacademy.com. All right, I want y'all to join our Patreon, and I'll have it across the screen next time. But y'all, I produced, wrote, and delivered tonight's podcast, right? But you can go to patreon.com/Uhuru Academy, become a monthly member. As we get this thing organized, we're going to be delivering exclusive content, exclusive merch. Y'all know we do music. Y'all know we throw events. Oh, we have some things going on. And we want you to be a part of that village. We want you to be a part of that Ujamaa village that we're building, that village of Black-owned businesses that are coming together and rallying around investing in our young people. We want you to be a part of that. Spread this message, share this message. And if this is something that you want to see more of, show me. You can show me better. You can tell me. DM me. Send me some positive words, some positive encouragement. It doesn't necessarily always have to be money. Just let me know that this is something that we need and that we're part of the solution and not the problem. This has been The Build with Baba Amin. I'm out. Peace.
You are as great as any man of greatness that you've heard about, read about, or seen in real life. Possibly greater.
Everybody wanna build with me, politic and chill with me. They see the fire's killing me, the authentic is feeling me, the architects are feeling me. You're dreaming about killing me. They wish that they could silence me because I build so violently. We will not go quietly. Subscribe to me until this show is virally. Got millions trying to vibe with me. Let's build.